What's going on, everyone? Jeremy here from the Quartering, and like a beautiful disaster, a 40 car pileup, nobody can look away from the disaster that Google AI or Google Gemini has been. You know, I talked about it in a different video where Google lost $90 billion in market cap in a single day because it was that bad, because it was that bias. And now the CEO of Google himself has come out to say that not only was it completely acceptable, but it was awful. And it gets worse for Google as more internal comments keep coming out from employees that reveal a massive bias and some completely unhinged employees. Not just the individual who's in charge of the AI, but many others. Let's start with Google CEO. Says Gemini AI diversity errors are completely unacceptable. Well, let's not forget that there's also a lot of other errors. You know, how it basically equates any conservative with being some kind of predator. You know, there's that. You know, there's that little nugget. There's the, slanderous stuff that it says about, Tim Pool or Scott Adams or Jim Jordan or any real, conservative politician. All these things, he doesn't seem to, care about that. But he goes on, he says, our mission is to make the world's information, is to organize the world's information and make it accessible to universally accessible and use, blah, blah, blah. The historically inaccurate images and the text generated by Google's Gemini AI have offended our users and shown bias. CEO Sundar Pichai told employees in an internal memo obtained by The Verge. How did they not know this? How do they not do some of the most basic testing? Some of the most basic QA. Well, I'll tell you why. They agree with it. They saw it. They programmed it that way. It was acting as intended. They thought they could just get by with it. Go ahead and search Google for stock images of shoplifters and tell me what you see. Last week, Google paused Gemini's ability to generate images after it was widely discovered that the model generated racially divisive, bad guys from World War II German soldiers. The U.S. founding, they only cared because they made, basically black, soldiers from World War. That's the only reason. If they, obviously Nazis were white, but that's the example they chose to be upset about. In the memo, which first was reported by Semaphore, Pichai says the company has been working around the clock to address, quote, problematic text and image responses in the Gemini app. He doesn't say that Google has fixed the problem. No AI is perfect, especially at this emerging stage in the industry's development, but we know the bar is high for us and we will keep at it however long this takes. In the actual memo, he wrote, I want to address recent issues with the problematic text and image responses in the Gemini app, formerly Bard. I know that some of its responses have offended our users, some of its responses. To be clear, that's completely unacceptable, and we got it wrong. I mean, that's pretty rough. I'd say that that's not untrue, though. Now, of course, we talk about all this other stuff. We'll be driving a clear set of actions, including structural changes, updated product guidelines, improved launch processes, robust evals, red teaming, and technical recommendations. We are looking across all of this, and we will make the necessary changes. I mean, what's wild is, we know what it takes to create great products and that are used and beloved by billions. Do you really? Has Google really created much that is great anymore these days? Like, legitimately. Have they created anything that's amazing? There's probably 100 things that they have created and failed. Google Glass, the many, Google Chat, Google Meet, whatever, all these, Google services. Oh, how about Google's great foray into video games? Does anybody even remember Stadia? Google knows how to throw its hat in the ring in a lot of things, but it generally doesn't know how to get things right, other than, shilling for the Democratic Party, perhaps. That's about it. And if you look at Google's working around the clock to fix its unacceptable Gemini AI, CEO says, how could you get it this wrong? How could you get it this wrong? And by the way, Google is down again another 2%. Like if you look at the Google stock, it is down $2.51 today per share. In the 5-day, it's down $8.55. You're talking about over $100 billion in market cap. In the last month, it is down $17.26, nearly 11%. Nearly 11%. Yikes. If you look at the last 6 months, we're close to a 6-month high not that long ago. Now we're hitting very, very very, very close to the floor. By the way, it keeps going down. It's wild to me. But what's also interesting is it looks like there's been some more bad news. You see Google Gemini Backlash exposes comments from employees on Trump, anti-racism, and white privilege. Whatever that is. One Gemini worker said Biden's 2020 win was a beautiful day for anyone who isn't a selfish a-hole. Resurfaced videos and comments from Google employees have come to light amid backlash to the company's Gemini AI chatbot. Could this actually be a time now where, wokeness is actually, having a wildly negative effect? It's finally hurting them. After all that, it's finally hurting them. And now a lot of their staff is getting revealed. Amid the controversy, many of you saw this one. Social media post from Gemini Experience's Senior Director of Product Management, Jack Krosiak, went viral. White privilege is effing real, he wrote in a screenshot dated April 13th, 2018. Don't be an a-hole and act guilty about it. Do your part in recognizing bias at all levels of egregious. On January 20th, 2021, he wrote that President Biden's inaugural address was one of the greatest ever for acknowledging systemic racism and reiterating the American ideal is the dream for the world, but we need to work on ourselves to earn it. He also wrote that he'd been crying for the past 24 hours over it. Now, to be clear, by the way, it's entirely fine. It's entirely fine that, there are liberals that work for Google. So I think if you just point out like one unhinged Google employee's, liberal musings on Twitter, it's not quite the own that a lot of people think it is. However, there are dozens of them who are not just, liberal, but unhinged. Fox News Digital found a trove of other comments by Google employees that exhibit political biases. Clement Farabet, the vice president of research at Google DeepMind, which developed Google Gemini, made several comments in 2020 that applauded the then president-elect Joe Biden and disparaged then President Trump and his supporters. Wow. What a beautiful day for America and for the world, for women, for minorities, for our children, and really anyone who's not a selfish a-hole. That same day, he called the Republican Party pathetic. Farabet also made several online comments in the wake of J6. In one tweet, he mocked Trump and said that he was very impressed that the recently defeated president could read from a teleprompter. How's that going for Joe Biden, by the way? How's that going for ya boy Joe? After Senate Republicans condemned the actions of Trump on J6, Farabet tweeted, "Oh, F you supported this all the way. Gemini, who now works as AI ethics and compliance advisor at Google, gave a keynote address in 2021 after she established the company's global responsible AI operations governance team. She was tasked with ensuring Google met its AI principles and the company's ethical charter for developing and deploying fair, inclusive, and ethical advanced technologies. In the address, Gemini revealed a personal inclusion failure. I treated every member of my team the same and expected that it would lead to equally good outcomes for everyone. That was not true. After getting feedback from some members of her team that did not feel welcome because nobody looked like them, in a broader organizational management team, she also claimed that it was a myth that treating marginalized and excluded groups the same as others was quote unquote fair. What? Literally what? We're trying to be good allies. When it comes to being anti-racist, we will make some mistakes, Gemini later said. I mean, the company also plans on spending $100 million on Black-owned businesses and to make, quote, anti-racist education HBCUs, which are historically black colleges. Fox News Digital asked Google. I mean, it's not just that these people are liberal. Again, that is fine. It's that they are unhinged lunatic liberals and they're all on the same team. I hope more people keep digging around this because the fallout's been absolutely amazing. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, make sure to leave a like on it and we'll talk to you again real soon.